Within the last hour, it's been announced that crucial talks about austerity measures in Greece have broken up without resolution and will continue tomorrow.
Greece's debt crisis. EU officials say Greece's government has overspent and fudged their financial figures for years.
The Greek government has signed off on a new round of austerity measures in exchange for another bailout, but European finance ministers say that may not be enough.
Deadly riots breaking out in Greece over the government's plan to avoid defaulting on its loans.
Overseas, the world's attention is again on Greece tonight, where that potential economic time bomb is sending shockwaves around the world.
Over the last decade, Greece went on a debt binge that came crashing to an end in late 2009, provoking an economic crisis that has decimated the country's economy, brought down a government, unleashed increasing social unrest, and threatened both Euro's recovery and the future of the euro. The austerity measures demanded by the Troika in return for 5 massive bailout packages have ripped holes in the Greek safety net and plunged the country into a recession of near Great Depression dimensions. Despite a swap of 177 billion in Greek debt for new bonds worth as much as 75% less that was agreed by Greece's private sector lenders and a 5th bailout package from the EU, the markets still remain skeptical, and investors have pushed interest rates on Greek bonds above those of emerging countries like India and the Philippines, leading to talks of an once again potential default. If Greece defaults on its debt, European countries that have been lending money to Greece will face immediate turmoil in their money flows, since the financial system, as we can all see, is all interconnected. And though the cuts and tax raises, as forecasted by Troika, were meant to ease the fiscal crisis, the economic slowdown raised Greece's deficit to 10.5% of gross domestic product in 2010, exceeding the 9.6% target set by the government, while public debt swelled to 142% of GDP.
What factors have forced Greece into this severe depression? First and foremost, the Greek financial crisis is essentially homegrown and exacerbated by the global economic climate of recent years. A generation of fiscal mismanagement and clientelistic relationships underpinned by cheap credit and the illusion of wealth that was given to Greece with its membership in the Eurozone resulted for the most part in the crisis Greece has been facing. More specific, Greece's trade balance is completely unsustainable. Greece has never had a heavy manufacturing industry or a strong export sector. The trade with EU countries accounts for 65% of Greek trade. Although exports have risen to record levels, the country still imports about twice as much as it exports. Ricardo's trade model is completely disregarded in Greece's case, and thus, the country has been running recurrent deficits on its trade balances. The Greek public sector is bloated and inefficient. According to the National Statistics Organization, in 2010, there was 1 public employee for every 13 Greek citizens. Even though public sector employment was not large by European standards, most of this employment was in heavily loss-making state-owned enterprises, where jobs were allocated through patronage or nepotism, not by merit. Such practices have been tolerated by a large percentage of the population for ages now, since they provided people with guaranteed income and politicians with guaranteed votes. Furthermore, public sector wages have been allowed to grow at high rates that public employees get paid more than private sector employees while working fewer hours. Due to the high costs and limited revenues of the public sector, Greece has been borrowing money in order to finance its state-dependent businesses far beyond its means and for too long. This has played a major part in the overaccumulation of state budget deficits.
Apart from the bloated public sector, Greece also has been suffering from extravagantly bloated military spending. In 2005, according to the CIA, Greece ranked 2nd in Europe for its military expenditure over its defense against Turkey. A large portion of the spending derived from purchases of military equipment from foreign countries, including million-worthy scams that have been agreed between Greek politicians and German manufacturers over purchases of sagging submarines that are still part of Greece's military equipment.
gerade ausgehandelt hat, dass Griechenland unterstützt wird vor einem Jahr, war ja eine der Grundbedingungen, dass auf jeden Fall die Importe von deutschen Rüstungsgütern nicht minimiert werden. Also Griechenland sollte sparen, sollte die Pensionen zusammenstreichen, sollte den Leuten alles aus der Tasche ziehen.
On est quand même hypocrite. Ces derniers mois, la France a vendu 6 frégates à la Grèce pour 2,5 milliards. Cette année, à la Grèce, il y a quelques mois, ça fait 1 milliard. Mais on est complètement hypocrite. On leur donne de l'argent pour acheter nos armes.
But the most severe scourge for the Greek government revenue budget has been tax evasion. According to a report by the Hellenic Foundation for European and Foreign Policy, the Greek state is losing 13 billion euros annually in tax evasion and corruption. The shadow economy is larger in Greece than in almost any other European country and is directly related to self-employment. Transparency International recently put Greece in a three-way tie with Bulgaria and Romania as the most corrupt country in Europe. Since tax evasion is so common, people trust the system less. More people evade, and thus the government has to raise taxes on honest taxpayers, public sector employees and pensioners who cannot hide their incomes. Recurrent financial scandals have pushed Greece in an even deeper recession. In early 2010, it was revealed that successive Greek governments had consistently and deliberately misreported the country's official economic statistics to keep within the EU monetary union guidelines. Going against the Maastricht rules that allow a budget deficit limit of 3% of GDP and a total government debt less than 60%, Greece's deficit each year has been far greater than the 3% limit. In 2009, it exploded to over 12% that was never reported. In 2002, Greece's debt managers agreed a huge deal with Goldman Sachs bankers, which involved so-called cross-currency swaps, in which government debt issued in dollars and yen was swapped for euro debt. US bankers devised a special kind of swap with fictional exchange rates, and in that way additional credit of $1 billion was created for Greece. Through such actions, Greece was unable to live and spend far beyond its means.
I'm particularly concerned about the role of U.S. financial institutions, particularly Goldman Sachs, that as Greece got on the heroin of borrowed money, Goldman was the crack dealer.
Other recent scandals include unstructured bonds that had been underwritten by JP Morgan for the government and later sold at 93% of their nominal value. Unofficial contracts with German Siemens that has cost 2 billion to Greek taxpayers, and deputy ministers who had spent over 100 million euros in taxpayer money to finance illegal land swap deals.
It is important, however, to keep in mind that the blame does not fall equally on all Greeks. While Greece's public debt has been skyrocketing, Greece's household debt in 2009 was at 40%, meaning that households did not have a big share in the debt accumulation, whereas government did. Greeks have been accused widely of not working hard enough and retiring too early. The facts do not back up this claim though. Figures from Eurostat show that in 2008 and 2010, Greeks worked the longest hours in the Eurozone and had a higher unofficial retirement age than most EU countries.
Why have EU actions not worked so far? Almost 2 years, and after a total of 5 bailout packages, the Greek economy continues to sink under 340 billion in debt, as the austerity packages sent the economy far deeper into recession. Greece was not bailed out. It was given a very expensive credit card with which to pay off the mortgage after having lost a job.
Greece isn't run through democracy now, it's run through a troika. These policies are driving Greece towards a revolution.
Furthermore, the impact of the austerity measures have led Greece to the lowest employment turnover rate in Europe, a sign of a stagnant economy. Right now, the unemployment rate among young people has reached 40%. As an increasing number of people claim unemployment benefits, the government is finding it increasingly difficult to meet its budget targets. Public hostility against the austerity measures grows daily, and the financial crisis has turned into a social crisis that has been depleting the country's power even more. Without stimulus for the Greek economy, the bailout packages will keep pushing Greece further into the swamp of low growth and high unemployment. It has been suggested that if Greece can't pay its loans back to the EU, it should start selling islands, something that has provoked extreme anger among Greek people over the country's loss of sovereignty. For Greece to be able to start paying back its loans, government needs to start making revenue. That calls for critical structural reformations, first and foremost in the tax system, in order for extreme tax evasion to stop. Greece needs to liberate itself from the kleptocrats that have been running the country and poisoned the nation, and embrace transparency over all its financial operations. If Greece continues to rely on raising money by tax raises and severe wage cuts, the economy will never recover, and the country will keep pushing itself into a much worse vicious circle of loans, bailout packages, and severe indebtedness. Then, it will only be a matter of time until the inevitable for Greece happens.